She thought she had escaped the clutches of the fake policeman. She thought the door of the night forest would take her to safety. But no one expected that, as soon as Tien stepped out of the first trap, another nightmare had been waiting for her for a long time. The person stalking her was not alone. What she once believed in, everything was crumbling down piece by piece. In today's episode, the truth begins to emerge, but will it be the final truth? Please watch together. Since the night she discovered the security camera had been turned off, Tien had been unable to sleep. She pretended to live normally, walking lightly, eating on time, but in her head she was always calculating and observing every little detail in that house, from the position of the water glass, the look of the police officer on duty, to even the noise from the bathroom at night. One morning, she pretended to drop her phone. When she bent down to pick it up, her hand quickly stuffed a small piece of paper under the sofa, a place only she knew. On that piece of paper, she wrote, "If I disappear, check the house in the T Hill." At 1:43, the camera was turned off. She hid another piece of paper on the edge of the pillow in the bedroom. The next morning, Tien checked the data again. When she saw a black shadow appear on the screen, her face turned pale for a moment. Then she immediately locked the phone and stuffed it into a spare shoe. She was certain of one thing: the person following her was no stranger. He knew every corner of this house, and might be the person who had lived here before, or was still here. Night fell on the safe house. Inside the small, simple room, moonlight shone through the thin curtains, casting shadows on the old, shiny brick floor. Tien sat motionless by the window, her tense face reflecting a breathless contemplation. On her knees was a sheet of paper covered with small lines, notes she had secretly written over the past 2 days, the time of the police shift change, the camera locations that had been turned off, and the trail leading behind the tea plantation, where the tire tracks she had seen faintly in the morning mist had been. In her hand, the old phone lit up again. She opened the video recorded last night, the image of a figure leaning close to the window, quietly observing inside. The figure did not knock on the door, did not speak, just looked for a long time. His eyes, deep and cold, made her whole body shiver as if a cold air was running down her spine. It was not the gaze of an indifferent wanderer. It was a familiar gaze, of someone who knew her well, or had been following her for a long time. She whispered softly, almost inaudibly, "I can't wait any longer. If I don't leave this place in the next 48 hours, I may never leave again. Blank. Tien quietly examined every exit around the house. The main door was always double locked, one from the inside, one from the outside guarded by the police. The downstairs bathroom had a small vent, but it was blocked with a sturdy iron mesh. There was only one possible direction, the bedroom window, which looked straight out to the edge of the pine forest, the path that sloped down to the T Hill, where there had been tire tracks imprinted in the wet mud. She remembered clearly. Every night at around 2:15, the police on duty would retreat to the kitchen for about 10 minutes to check the internal affairs and make coffee. That would be the only chance. The whole next day, Tien silently prepared. In an old backpack, she stuffed some cash that she had hidden under the insole, an old phone that had been set to automatic recording mode, a fruit knife, the only thing she had enough for self-defense, along with a roll of bandages and an old photo of Jack, a photo of him smiling, standing in the middle of a field of grass, a photo she still kept with her as a silent oath, must survive to see him again. On the pillow, she left a small piece of paper, written in shaky handwriting, "If I disappear, don't believe anyone who says I left on my own. It was exactly 2:17 in the morning. The wall clock ticked silently. Tien wore a black coat, covering her head. She opened the window a crack, inching out of the small frame, hands gripping the cold wall, legs shaking as they touched the damp earth and rotting leaves. No one noticed. She raced down the hillside, each step pushing through the fear in her heart. The phone in her pocket vibrated. A text message had just arrived from an unknown number. "You made the right choice. But don't look back. They know you're suspicious." She paused, her breath caught in her throat. In the distance, in the fog that covered the path, The headlights of a car flashed through the pine forest, dim and cold. Was it rescue? Or was there an even bigger trap waiting ahead? Tien stood still at the edge of the forest, where the tea hills had just ended and the dark pine trees began to cast shadows. The car lights had just flashed and then gone out as if they had never appeared. There was no sound of the engine, no tire tracks, only the sound of the wind blowing through the treetops and the sound of her heart pounding in her chest. She took a step back, her eyes darting around. No one was chasing her, but no one was coming to pick her up either. She couldn't risk going towards the light that had just gone out, it could be bait. Tien decided to turn away, sneaking into the small path she had walked through a few weeks ago when she was brought back to the farm. Each step was made of dry leaves and twisted tree roots. The forest at night was colder than she had expected. The moisture from the ground rose, seeping through her coat, making her skin prickle with goosebumps. The dry branches touched her face, scratched her wrists, as if whispering, "Turn back. You're on the wrong path." But no, turning back meant death. About an hour later, she stopped to rest under a large tree. She opened her phone, checked the location, no signal. The flashlight was getting weak. She took out the spare battery, plugged it in, then was stunned to see a new missed call, from an unknown number from the night before. No message. She swallowed. In the dense darkness, there was the sound of a tree branch breaking behind her. She turned around, no one was seen. But her eyes fell on a small piece of paper clipped to a nearby tree branch, pinned with a rusty dagger. Tien pulled it out, her hands shaking as she opened it to see a scribbled line, written in black ink. "You are going in the right direction. Don't let them lead you to the rocky stream. Follow the pine roots." The ink was fresh. The writer had only left not long ago. She shivered. Someone was leading the way. But who? A mysterious person who wanted to harm her, or an ally in the dark? In the distance, a golden light flickered at the end of the forest, flickering like a fire. She gripped the fruit knife in her hand, took a deep breath, and continued walking. Under her heels, twisted pine roots began to emerge from the ground, as if leading her toward a truth that no one wanted to touch. Tien walked slowly along the pine roots exposed in the damp ground. With each step, her heart beat faster, not only because of fear, but because something inside her was urging her. A vague but distinct feeling, as if someone was pulling her closer to a memory that she had forgotten, or had been forced to forget. The light ahead gradually became clearer. It was a fire. Not a car light, not a flashlight, a small campfire, smoldering in a clearing in the middle of a pine forest. Tien hid behind a tree trunk, holding her breath. Next to the fire was a man sitting with his back turned, a dark cloak draped over his shoulders. He sat as still as a statue, his skinny hands lightly warming themselves in front of the fire. His hair was thin and gray, a small scar on the back of his neck, strangely familiar. She clenched the fruit knife in her hand, took a breath, and stepped out of her hiding place. "You're waiting for me, right?" The man paused. Very slowly, he turned his head. The firelight illuminated that haggard face. It was Mr. Bay. The face that had appeared like a ghost on her journey, the former storekeeper at the old farm. The one who had led Jack into a trap, and also the one she had heard mentioned in her vague childhood memories at Tien Tam Camp. "You're here," he said, his voice hoarse like gravel touching stone. "Why are you here? Why are you following me?" Tien took a step back, still holding the knife in her hand. Mr. Bay did not answer immediately. A moment later, he pulled out from his pocket an old, dusty piece of cloth. Inside was a small, discolored amulet. "This was under my pillow when I was little, on the night of the campfire." Tien was stunned. Vague memories rushed back. A wet corner of the blanket, smoke, someone shouting her name in the midst of the fire. "I thought you were the one behind it all." She choked. "No, there are things. I'm also trying to escape." Mr. Bay looked up, his eyes fixed on the dark forest. "And if you're still alive, it's because I didn't follow their orders." Tien clutched the talisman, her heart pounding. This man wasn't simple, but he wasn't lying, at least, this time. "So, what's the truth? If you want to know, come with me. But once you step forward, there's no turning back." The fire flared up again. illuminating two figures, one trembling with fear, the other trembling with old sins that had never been atoned for.